Thanks a lot for staying with us on TVC Midday News. President Muhammadu Buhari has inaugurated the Audit Committee on the Recovery and Management of Stolen Assets within and outside Nigeria. The president says the setting up of this committee was pursuant to the resolve of his administration since its inception to pursue a strong and effective anti-corruption regime. He also added that this was in view of the multiple cases of mismanaged and misappropriated national assets identified by his administration upon the assumption of office. Well, this was what the federal government embarked on, tracing and recovery of all such stolen assets within and outside Nigeria. The government stresses that it's doing all this using legal and diplomatic efforts at resources at its disposal. So let's talk about this latest initiative of setting up of an audit committee now, as we bring in Debo Adeniran. He's the executive chairman of CACO to talk on this. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us again on TVC News. How do you, weigh this three-member committee now, specifically with the aim of, confirming that what is being brought to the government somehow, is accurate?
Well, thank you very much. The effort is appropriate, although a little belated. Ought to have been set up as soon as the administration was voted to power, to assess the amount of assets that have been recovered before it started its own operation, so that it will know where it's starting. Now that it has been set up, we believe that all the assets that have been recovered will be streamlined, will be registered in a place, in a document that anybody can access. We also advise that such assets should be put on a website where every Nigerian can access it and confirm or deny some of them, because if there is some assets actually have been relooted, and these are the areas that the committee should look into, that assets that have been recovered both within Nigeria and outside Nigeria should be identified. There should be, if it is a house, it should have a number, the street number and everything, and people should be able to access that truly that is it. Then if some have been recovered and are not declared by any of the agencies, it should be identified, and members of the public should be asked to assess those that have been listed, as being appropriate or otherwise. But it is a right step in the right direction that we foreclose the accusation of some asset being converted to personal use by those who recover it, and some agency accusing another of not rendering accurate account of recovered assets, or the owners of assets accusing the anti-corruption or those who actually recover the asset of converting such assets to themselves. I think it's appropriate. And
we've also seen even EFCC, daring under Ibrahim Magu, of course, also saying the agency under his watch is open for audit in itself. Do you also expect now that whilst this committee now has a 4-week mandate to, get all these documents, all these materials from the agencies concerned, that the committee itself should also, do an audit somehow of all agencies, that were involved in asset recovery? It is
not a rocket science. There should have been a register of the recovered assets with each of the agencies that recovered them. What they need to do is to call for these, registers and verify if actually the assets are real or imaginary. So that the committee wouldn't have been deceived to believe that an asset is where they say it is in the quality and quantity that has been said. If it is raw cash, there should have been a financial institution that is involved. If it is a building or something like that, if it's a ship you know, there is Nigerian Shippers Council and all that, that we confirm that truly that ship is on Nigerian waters or wherever it is located in the world. So it is not going to take them so much. But what we are afraid of is the limits of
doesn't appear sufficient.
Is not appear sufficient. No, the limit of period that asset recovered should be that will be kind of verified. Okay. They should have started much earlier, because assets are being recovered even in the military days. What did they do with such assets? Assets, even there are several things that to be verified. It is a good thing. It is easier to trace funds that is accruing to government through the TSA. Okay, they have streamlined it. So all the agencies should also have something like assets, you know, a single asset recovery register, you know, so that whenever an asset is recovered, it goes into that register, so that anybody can cross-check how much assets have been recovered in terms of cash, in terms of materials, in terms of equipment, in terms of facilities.
Even when governments, you know, come or go, and a new administration comes in.
Exactly. That's why I say they ought to have started from as far back as military days, you know, so that Nigeria will know what belongs to it. Unlike in the petroleum industry, that it is the exploiters that tell us what they have exploited, I mean, how far they have exploited us as far as petroleum products are concerned. So the same thing, some of these asset recovery agencies, they just mention it, that oh, we have recovered that. Indeed, some of them might not have been recovered. Then some of them have said, look at Abacha loot. It was said to have been, largely relooted. The other time they said that the former chairman of EFCC, you know, went away with 1 trillion.
And when you even say relooted, meaning that the officers involved, you know, bring back these looted funds, but somehow
it still went to private hands, and that is what this committee are supposed to nip in the bud. They should set up a kind of mechanism that will make it difficult, if not impossible, for anybody to reloot assets that have been recovered.
Of course, though, that I'm sure CACOL is going to be monitoring.
We are going to, yes. As a matter of fact, we have set up a machinery that will also monitor the activities of the committee. And we have been advising the authorities on what we believe will make it authentic, legitimate, and acceptable to a cross-section of Nigerians.
All right, Debo Adeniran, we'll see how it all goes now, how this will enhance Muhammadu Buhari's administration. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Debo Adeniran, Executive Chairman of CACOL.